You could flip it up too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you needed to, and then you could always do that deal where you lift it up and then you like tilt your head down really fast. And it's like, and it like falls in your face. Yeah.
Ow.
But it's such a big wide berth between you and that mask anyway. Yeah. So poor choice, maybe.
Yeah,
you could have had a
terrible
respirator.
choice, dude.
Yeah.
If I'm going into like assault on Mortuary 13, I am definitely not wearing a fucking welding mask.
A welding mask is not gonna happen.
So sorry. Again, 80s horror movie. I know, but sometimes I'm like, logic.
Yeah.
And,
No.
So we're in the boiler room. We got Mike going in first, and then Reggie follows.
No. Well, Mike's in the embalming room.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Reggie calls to Mike. He's like, "Get down here."
Yep.
And then that's when he's like, it's the girl.
Yeah, he opens her. He pulls that deal back.
Yeah.
And she's in a minion costume anyway, or a Jawa suit.
Yeah, it's like a black thing. But
And
there's a
then
little bit of
cloak.
foreshadowing. Her mouth is taped because that happens later.
Yeah, and you can actually like as you're like the camera's coming in on her, you know it's not a Jawa because you can see her legs folded.
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. So he's
she's
like, "This
a
is
full-grown
Liz.
human.
This is her."
This is the girl I've been dreaming about.
Yeah.
And then they see something moving. He's like, "Mike," he sees some shit moving because he pulls out a sweet silver 45 too. You know,
Yeah.
he's like, "Reggie, hold this. You got a gun, but you can hold my flamethrower."
Right.
You know what I mean? Instead of putting it down or something. And then that's whenever the fucking tall man comes out. It's like, "Ugh."
Yeah, it's like a weird face back herpy or something. It's
It's like a
fucking
dick with a
evil
face
looking.
on it, like
Yeah.
a worm with a face on it.
absolutely.
Evil
coming
looking,
off her
too.
back though. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it
good
almost
looking,
looked like
yeah.
Freddy Krueger a little bit too.
A little bit,
very,
yeah.
Very Krueger-esque, yeah.
Yeah, and come west if you dare, boy. And he's and he burns him, and then that's not the first time he's laid a trap for us, even though that was the worst one.
Yeah, that was the worst one so far.
And then they have the more road stuff where they're driving up the mountains and everything like that.
And this is where we get to Paragord,
Paragord,
which
yes.
is where
Liz and
Liz
her
is,
grandmother
and her super bitch ass sister Jerry. It's a fucking dick,
Yeah.
dude.
I'm not sticking around. I gotta go. It's 30 minutes to the train station.
Yeah,
She's
it's
like,
like
I gotta leave at
it's
6.
not even like she waited till it was over and like was like peacing out. And I don't care if she said anything to the grandma or not, but just like halfway through the ceremony or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever
it's
you
a
call
bitch
that,
move. But
you
to
know?
be fair, no one else was there.
Yeah,
And
because the
it
whole
didn't-
town was gone.
It
anyway.
didn't sound like they had a very good relationship with them.
Well, yeah, no,
But
because
what a
she even
bitch.
says I don't hear much from her. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we just know that she's a little estranged.
Yeah.
Whether that's by her choice, which it sounds like it is.
It's like she's got to go home to her husband and kids or something like that.
Or work or whatever.
yeah.
School.
Prostitute life, whatever. Yeah.
Welcome to the stage.
Jerry. Jerry on the small stage.
Alchemy on the big stage.
Give it up for Jerry. She's the afternoon girl.
The afternoon girl. And I hope you're all enjoying the buffet.
We have
Well-
more scrambled eggs.
Well, that's when we get to see the priest the first time too, because the priest is kind
yeah.
of like he's a weirdo, you know. I mean,
He's an
kinda like-
alcoholic or
Yeah.
drinking,
Yeah.
like secretly, I guess.
Well, because he's like, I don't want this abomination to happen anymore, so he stabs the dude in the chest.
And then, of course, fuking poor Gammy sees that shit.
Yeah. So at
And
the
she like
funeral,
passes
yeah.
the fuck out.
like, how do you explain that?
You don't.
Yeah, Grandma
don't
passed out.
fucking-
She saw me stabbing fucking your grandfather in the heart.
You can see from the giant fucking sword thing that stuck out of the fucking coffin.
yeah.
Come on.
And then the tall man comes in and he like lick the jism pus thing.
Yeah, it's like, what is
Yeah.
the shit on that? It's like a hair pin, hat pin or something. almost, is
That's
what it looks
her.
like,
yeah,
you know
that's
what I
her
mean?
hat pin. Because she's walking through the mausoleum, and I've always liked the mausoleums in these movies
Yeah,
because they always
absolutely.
really picked really good sets
Mhm.
for those. And that's she runs into the graveside services will be blah blah blah. He says something to her. She stabs him on accident because she has her hands in her palms, and she like digs her nails into them
Right.
because she doesn't know if it's real. She's like trying to check and see if it is a real thing.
Right. And she's bleeding.
Yeah, so she's bleeding with those little bitty marks, and she walks down a little bit because she just kind of like gets a feeling to walk that way or something, I guess. And then that's whenever she stabs the tall man in the finger, and he lifts his finger up, and it's got the fucking embalming fluid in it,
Right.
and he like licks it, and he's like, yeah,
Like the custard blood or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, well, and
weird
that's
milk blood.
weird, right?
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about the yellow stuff
Yeah.
later. Whether that's actually embalming fluid or what it is.
Well, I would
have
assume.
questions about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, well, we can wait or.
Whatever, we can hit it up now.
I was just gonna say, I think it's the reason they put it in there, and then they put them in the containers, and it turns them into the little people.
Yeah, it's like some kind of weird mutagen, right?
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
then they put them over to the other world, and then they're workers there or whatever.
It's compression fluid.
I guess. I don't know.
Because they're compressing them. You know what I mean? They're like squishing them.
I don't know.
So,
You
but
know?
why did he drink some? He's already tall. He doesn't give a fuck. He's like,
he's
what?
just gross,
Gonna
I
lose an
think.
inch?
Yeah.
Probably off these platforms.
Right. Yeah. His 8-inch platform shoes. Because he was only 5'5".
Yeah.
He's 6'7" with those on.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like the clown in the parade. You know what I mean? But so, yeah, that's whenever the next scene, aren't they still traveling? They
Well,
actually.
I think now we're the next scene, aren't we, with the priest?
Yeah.
Because he's like, that's when he hears the stuff at the door, right?
He's drinking. Damn,
Oh, yeah,
he's
so it
drinking.
cut-
Damn this wind.
He's like super nervous.
yeah.
So she.
Yeah,
so
every time
the-
he takes a drink, it kind of calms his nerves for a second.
Yeah.
Like he just needs another drink immediately, too.
Yeah.
And then he hears something at the door, right?
And it's Grandpa.
But he does the best thing. He goes up and he's like, gonna open the door and he's gonna check the thing.
Yeah,
And then he's
no.
like, fuck that.
Nah.
Just the
I already
wind.
know what it is. I already know what it is. I don't want to look. It was like you cut yourself and you're like, I'm not going to look. It's going to
Yep.
hurt if I look. I'm not going to look. And then the blood's dripping everywhere. And you're like, fuck this. But yeah, then Grandma wakes up with Grandpa next to her in bed.
Yeah.
And then, you know.
Fucking Gammy, this poor fucking
Poor Gammy.
poor old woman.
Poor little old lady, right? Gets a scare of her life, probably kills her, right? And then the next morning, Liz wakes up, is like, Grandma? You know, I mean, come on. I mean, she sounds like a 8-year-old, you know, screaming to her
Yeah.
grandmother. She just got her Guess jeans on. She's ready to go. She's got her fucking leggings going on, you know what I mean? So she's ready to head out, and then she sees the fucking hat pin. You know, with the milky substance, the weird embalming
The
grape
custard
fluid.
compression
And
fluid.
actually, right before that happens, though, don't we cut back to the road? And
Yeah.
the hitchhiker
Oh, yeah.
girl.
Yeah, that's whenever they pick up alchemy.
Yeah.
So he's-
Welcome, Alchemy.
So
to this
Mike's
main
riding.
stage.
Yeah, welcome.
He's
welcome.
shotgun sleeping.
Mike's sitting shotgun. He's falling asleep, and he thinks he's dreaming.
That he sees her.
He sees her, and he's like, "Oh," you know. And then the next thing you know, he wakes up, and
You don't see her. At
you don't
first.
see her at first. And Reggie's like, "Oh yeah, I picked up a hitchhiker,"
About
And
50
she's
miles
like-
back.
and she's like,
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? Like she's all fucking bubbly and shit. Like he
Kimmy
doesn't.
for short.
Yeah, but then he's like, "Hey, could you pull over so I could take a leak?" And then Reggie's
they-
like peeing, and
"They
he's just
pissing right next to each
Yeah,
other
he's,
too."
he's watching him pee, and he's like, "That's the girl I saw in my dreams." You know, he's like, "What? Whatever, man. It's been a long time on the road, man."
Yeah, he's
You
like,
know,
it's
it
been a
gets
long time.
hard.
Game,
No, what
yeah.
he says is it gets hard on the
Yeah,
road.
yeah. Don't
and
fuck
he
with-
says, "You're thinking with the wrong head."
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, 80s, yeah.
But like half hour ago, his family was just blown up.
Yeah.
you
I
know
don't
what
think it
mean?
was a half hour
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, like 30
in the-
days
in
ago.
In the story,
I know, but in the movie it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah.
You,
And now all of a
you
sudden
as a
he want-
viewer hasn't taken that journey with them,
Right,
for sure.
but all of a sudden he wants to bang this like bubbly bang.
Gets
wearing
hard out here on the
brunette.
road, Tyson.
yeah.
I guess.
When they're hunting the tall man.
I guess, man.
They need a little
So,
action.
well, you get that adrenaline pumping. You're gonna,
I wish they would have done something like
And
giving
they're in
them
a car
beards
together?
to make them get stubble, so I'd know time and went by a little bit more.
Yeah, but they get to stop, and there's hotels that are still open.
I'm
I
not
guess.
pretty
Well, how are they
sure
gonna
that
spend what
Mike
money?
can't grow facial hair.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. Just long hair.
Not because he's young, just because he's Mike.
yeah, yeah. He doesn't age at all. Yeah. So
All
that's
right, moving on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's whenever she's like, where you headed? Well, I'm headed to my hometown. It's Perigord,
Yeah.
where they're going. Of course, you know. And she's like, "Oh, well, my uncle owns a bed and breakfast here. I'm sure he'll let you guys stay." That's when they're going through the same kind of dead town again, too.
Right.
There's like 1957 Chevy broken down.
So
There's a fucking couple of old station wagons.
right before they get there, that's when we flash back to where she's looking for her grandma. And but that's where we hear his voiceover come in. If you want her, come tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that's
Yeah.
that's where we cut back to them now
Yeah.
coming into Perigord.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're
And,
gonna that's their foreshadowing. They're gonna
Of
meet up
course, yeah.
right there.
We're about to get our Mike and Liz courtship. Also.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
And
Yes.
and then they get to
Well, when they pull up to the cemetery too, because don't they set all the traps and everything like that at the house?
well, that's what I was gonna say. They get to the bed and breakfast, and it's all run down, but they still get inside.
But
I
it's
guess,
perfect
to stay
on
the-
the inside, but it's abandoned.
I
She even
guess.
says it too. Alchemy says something like, "I can't believe they abandoned it." she's like, oh, damn it.
But why are all the windows all boarded up?
Well, they boarded them all up because I guess they didn't want anybody in there, but yet they wanted their furnishings there whenever they could come back.
I guess.
Something. It was still operational somehow. And that's when Reggie, he's like, well, I don't have a key. Where we're going, we don't need keys. You know what I mean? He's like,
stand back.
He's good with that fucking thing too. Like
Yeah,
that
he
looks like awesome, real.
Allow me. And then they put a grenade and a beer can cut off, which is cool.
Yeah. So whenever the window lifts, it lifts a grenade. It'll blow shit up.
Yeah,
They got a shotgun pointed towards the front door. So they got their booby traps. They know how to set that shit up. Like the shotgun's on a tripod.
Right.
Somehow just aim perfectly at the door.
Well, and like before, like when they're going into that and that shade goes down, and that whole conversation there about how, they're like that person's the watcher.
They're afraid to come out.
They're afraid to come out. Blah blah blah.
It's like, is there one person left? Where are they getting
I
the
don't know
groceries
if we
at?
said that and I missed that, but that was a part where I was like, oh.
Yeah,
I guess that would help me assume that these small towns, like you said, sometimes people ran and left and boarded their shit up. Sometimes people just board themselves in the house and you're just watching.
Yeah, it's like
is that what that is?
Yeah, it's like the apocalypse or something.
Like the Walking Dead kind of deal.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This isn't happening all over the world, is it?
No.
Just in some towns?
And I bet you most people have already left or gone with other family or something like that. They fled.
But aren't these people in these towns telling like more authorities about it?
It's the 80s. What are they going to? They're not going to put it on the internet. They're not going to text somebody. They're not. You know what I mean?
Slowly, one at a time, everybody's getting taken.
And they're very small towns.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently, in very small towns that all have morgues.
Yeah,
that are
big
like
cemeteries
big mortuaries,
too.
rather, and things like that.
I don't know if you've been to a small town mausoleum, but it's usually only about 4 freaking graves, or four like.
Oh yeah,
it's like 3 stories and it's full of ashes.
It's not a labyrinth.
Yeah. No, not like these. But they really do. Liz gets there. She shows up at night. And that's where
she's in the cemetery, and then she hears his voice again. I got them both.
Yeah.
She wants her grandma back, and she's assuming Mike,
grandpa. I was.
Grandpa. Yeah.
And that's when they kind of roll into the cinema. They see the diggers, right? Mm-hmm. They see those dudes with the masks on, and they're digging up the graves, and they're pulling these graves out that are smoking. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Dry ice, man.
Yeah, they're smoking when they pull them.
When they pull them out, which. And they're like always carting them through like later on throughout the movie and everything. I'm like, are they covered in like steaming turds?
Right. Are these
was
covered
the ground
in
that
shit?
Hot?
Yeah. Was it by a sewer?
Right.
Yeah.
Load them with dry ice and then crack them a little.
Yeah. So they're just feeding the tall man at this point. They're feeding him all these dead bodies because he's taking the dead bodies and he's turning them into the basically the Jawas.
Right.
He's using those for something.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those are his minions, like you said.
It's like he's taking live people and dead people and turning them into minions in a way.
But why was that one guy burning them then?
Maybe he was an extra one. I don't know.
Yeah.
They don't really explain that.
They don't really explain that because that sets up him kind of burning her.
Right.
Because don't we see the priest at this time too? The priest comes in and he goes up to the
tall man.
Yeah, well, no,
he's hiding and praying at the beginning when we see him around that corner.
Yeah, and then he goes up to the little bitty box.
The box that's got.
And he opens the box and he's like touches it and it like shocks him. He's like, oh,
yeah, oh my finger.
And then he starts fucking walking by and crossing everything.
Yeah,
and that's when the tall man,
all the stuff.
Yeah, and then that's when the tall man comes up and he's like, what does he say? You think when you die you come to you go to him?
You go to heaven?
Yeah. You come to us. Yeah. And he's hanging him with his own rosary.
Yeah, he's hanging him. I was going to say he's hanging him with his own rosary.
That's pretty wicked. But he lets him go, too. Then he sticks the balls on him.
Yep.
Yeah. He sticks the balls on him, too. Mm-hmm. And those fucking balls
This is the chapter I like to call Balls Out.
Yeah.
Balls out.
And see, Liz is still kind of walking around, too. She's seen the dude with the fresh body doing the embalming stuff in that point.
And then that's when the priest grabs her.
Yeah. And that's when he's trying to get her to leave. He sees her. Like right after that, it's like, you need to go, pretty much. Like, let me help you out of here. And that's whenever he's like, what's that sound? And he turns the corner in the fucking, the one ball with the fucking, the saw blade comes out. It's like,
yeah, it cuts his ear off.
Straight off, man. Yep. The way they did that effect, I read that they had him laying down and they just threw the ball at him.
Really?
Because in the first movie they had one of the grips was like a semi-pro baseball player, so he would take the sphere and he would throw it
That's how
across
they got
the room.
That's how they got the shot of it going.
Yeah.
They would throw it and then play it in reverse.
Right,
Yeah.
sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
so it
this
looks
one,
really cool,
they
but it
like-
has the arc on it too. You can always
Yeah.
see the
Well,
arc.
and is this the first time we see like the view from the sphere with the weird colors? Like it's almost like
A little bit
I
later.
think so.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, a little bit
I
later.
thought we got
yeah.
a flash of it.
Well, no,
here.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
You do
so,
see it
yeah,
whenever the
yeah.
ball fight